Car Chat about a YouTuber, Romaine Fowler. He has about 33,000 subscribers. I've seen his channel, which makes it that much more relevant in my understanding what he does. If you have ever heard of Caleb Hammer, and if you're on YouTube and you watch money stuff, you've heard of Caleb Hammer, C-A-L-E-B, okay, Caleb Hammer, H-A-M-M-E-R. And Caleb Hammer interviews people, real raw interviews about their debt and stuff. Well, Romaine Fowler is the small version of Caleb Hammer, okay? Romaine Fowler, I'm just going to call him Romaine because I'm sure I'm botching up his last name already. So Romaine basically has the same type of niche, the same type of platform where he interviews people. Caleb Hammer has a few million, but Caleb Hammer's been doing it for years, from what I understand, which we have to remember, folks. When you see channels that have been doing this for a while, that have bigger numbers, they've been doing it for a while. Even my channel, I mean, I had 1,800 subscribers after 5 years of doing it. I had 1,800 subscribers summer 2024, and this channel didn't start to move until September 2024. So people look at my subscribership today and they think, oh, this just happened overnight. Are you kidding me? I've been doing it for almost half a decade. It's only been in like the last 6 months. Anybody even knows I exist, and love to you all for that, okay? But Romaine spent $60,000 being a YouTuber. Yes, 60,000. I think the exact quote is 57, but who cares about the extra 3? So Romaine, with his 33,000 subscribers, spent $60,000. He put up a video, I believe it's less than a week old, that basically talks about how he is quitting YouTube. And at least he's quitting trying to make it as a business. His accountant, he had an accountant too, okay? Basically notified him and said, look, you're flat broke. So Romaine, with his 33,000 subscribers, $60,000 in debt for his YouTube channel. His dream was, and I'm sure probably to some extent still is, to be a creator, okay? But the problem is he clearly can't afford it. There are some things that Romaine did that I would never do as a content creator. And if you have an interest in being a content creator, okay, take it from someone like me. I'm going to give you some tips on some things not to do, okay? One of the things that Romaine did, and he admits this in his videos, okay? So I'm not saying anything he didn't admit, okay? One of the things he admits to is he is paying someone to edit his videos. I've had people ask me if over the years I have somebody editing my videos. No, I can't afford it. Do you know how much video editing service is? If I want to get a video edited, it's going to say, I'm going to say rock bottom, low ball. Okay, not low ball in a bad way, but rock bottom, low cost. Might be $300 a video. A video. Up to $500, $600, $700 a video, depending upon what, type of stuff you want. Romaine never did his own video editing. People, you cannot be, for the most part, most of us cannot afford to have $300 to $500 a pop to have our videos edited. The majority of his going broke and his $60,000 debt over YouTube, which he's in the hole for, okay? Which is why he's quitting YouTube, at least from trying to make it as a business. He can keep it clearly as a hobby. He never learned, or if he did learn, he never bothered to use his creative skills on editing. Now, if you've watched my channel for so much as probably 10 videos, I hate editing. I hate it. I also try hard that my channel is not built on fancy editing. In other words, Mr. Beast, okay? And for those of you young people out there who think that one guy is doing the whole channel, no, he got a whole team of people, and it's a business, and it's tax deductions. In other words, there's so much more behind being a content creator than people realize. So Romaine is spending, and I'll link his video. I can't do it now when I'm driving, okay? I will link his video in my description box so you can watch it uninterrupted. But 33,000 subscribers, short of being independently rich, you should never, ever have somebody editing your videos. To be a content creator, it's hard work, okay? And it will take hours. A TikTok for me to take, one of those TikTok videos you see me do, from top to bottom, from the time I say, here's the topic, to producing it onto YouTube takes me about 7 hours. Now, somebody may go, how is that possible? It's all the software. programs you have to pay for. You have to pay, your time in coming up with the idea, laying it out, yada, yada, looking up the TikToks. Well, what Romaine was trying to do, and it's understandable, he wanted the creativity part. He wanted the part where he sits down with the people and he interviews them, very much like a Caleb Hammer style, okay? He wants, and so to speak, the fun part of the job. It's the unfun part of the job he was trying to outsource. Unless you are independently wealthy, folks, most of us cannot afford to outsource that type of stuff. YouTube has cost me to hold it for half a year in the thousands. Yes, in the thousands. How have I been able to afford it? I live ridiculously under my means. I understand what my excess income is. But a few people that know what it really takes to be a creator and the cost, if you are not willing to go through that learning curve yourself, you are, okay, 99.9% of you out there, you're going to go bankrupt over YouTube if you are not careful. When you see a YouTuber, I hate to use Mr. Beast because I'm not a teenager. He mainly attracts, that teenage crowd of, lots of edits and cuts and yada, yada. Okay. But when you take somebody like him and you think, wow, the production is so neat and I think he took a Ferrari or some car once and they just destroyed it. Guys, that's a business deduction. He didn't pay for that. It's a business deduction. All the staff, all the employees, they're all business deductions. You have to remember this. Romaine, as a party of one, and again, it's not even so much a subscriber count. I mean, there are people who are really wealthy. You could have a small YouTube channel and it wouldn't break you at all, but that's not most of us, okay? It's not average Joe Blow. But Romaine never put forward his own time to learn how to run his channel. So what happens is he becomes dependent on whatever the going market rate is to get his YouTube stuff, or what is it, to get his YouTube content up and running. You do not want, as a creator, I can pretty much tell you, you don't want to give up your ability to run a YouTube channel to somebody else who determines how much it's going to cost you. Every single thing that I have ever done on my YouTube channel, from all the advancements, all the growth, all the changes and lights, the cameras, everything, guys, I've learned it myself. Hold on, gotta change lanes. I've learned it completely myself. And hold on, we have a truck that is stuck. Okay, there we go. And if I had turned that over to somebody else, I would be flat broke today. I've said it many times on my channel. This is why I'm not genuinely attracted. Just, if you're self-employed, congratulations, okay? But in general, I'm not attracted to the self-employed lifestyle, which is what he was trying to be. Because a lot of people that are self-employed, they love the fun aspect of the job, but they do not wish to pay attention to the other aspects. And for the most part, it's whatever that specific hobby is that they love, the creating of it and stuff. But when it comes to understanding the financial portion of the job, there seems to be some deep disconnect. And it's because if we really, really look at what that hobby is costing us, when it starts putting you in the red, when it starts making it so that you can't sleep at night, and he was saying that basically, that he couldn't sleep at night, he was getting all stressed out. Yeah, because basically he bought my condo to run a YouTube channel. I did a video not too long ago, and I don't know if I can, this is going to come out as a short. I'll try to remember to link it at the end. But it was about a guy who's 25 years old. It was just 2-3 weeks ago. I think about 3 weeks ago I did this. He's 25 years old, quits his full-time job. He's got a baby mama, because he's not married to her. He's got a baby mama, okay, I think a 2-year-old kid. And he just decides he's quitting his job because he's had it. He doesn't find fulfillment. And he's going to become a YouTube content creator. And he's going to go gung-ho on his YouTube channel. I think he had something like a couple thousand subscribers, couple thousand, I think. Okay. Well, I since have visited his channel, and I don't think he's done squat with it. In other words, it's really easy to sit and say, I'm going to quit my day job and I'm going to become a YouTube content creator and I'm just going to go totally broke over it. Even as a channel with 130,000 subscribers, okay, which is about what I have right now. I think I'm at 132,000. Okay, there is no way in God's earth I would be willing to quit my full-time teaching job to become a content creator. It is, in all honesty, probably one of the most exhausting hobbies you can have. And being a content creator isn't as simple as people think, and it goes beyond just the money aspect of it. And one of the things that Romaine was saying, this YouTuber who lost $60,000, more than half of my condo, one of the things he was saying was he's basically at night trying to figure out how to fund this. Rule number one, like I said, be your own editor. And I talked to someone, I mean, really briefly, and I don't like, when you guys write on my comments and stuff, I try to respond to most of you. Sometimes I miss a comment and I don't see it. But I did have a really quick discussion with someone, I can't remember who it was, so I apologize, okay? That said they love the editing part. They don't love the creativity part. Now, you put the two of us together, we would be great. I love the creativity and the production, and she likes the editing. The problem is if you are not in a financial position to pay somebody for the part that you don't enjoy doing, you will go broke over YouTube. I'm going to give you an honest secret, okay? I'm actually an affiliate with Walmart, and I'm a shopping affiliate, Walmart specifically, like unrelated to YouTube. I'm actually a Walmart shopping affiliate, and I'm also a YouTube affiliate. And I know if I wanted to be an Amazon affiliate, I could. Well, I am an affiliate. Do you know why I don't really chase it down? Because there's a dirty little secret. That's why a lot of YouTubers are broke. These influencers you see, guys, you got to buy all that stuff. So unless you tend to buy it and return it, which to me is dishonest, if I'm going to tell someone how great something is, I think I have a duty to keep it. Okay, that's the first thing, okay? But you either are going to buy it and return it, which, as I just said, to me is somewhat dishonest, or you're going to buy it and you're just going to go broke. Why am I going to buy something? Let's just throw it out there. That's $100. I'm not going to return it because, like I said, to me, I only return things if there's, a genuine problem with it. Okay. Why would I eat the loss on doing that to try to create a YouTube channel? And this is why a lot of the times you'll see something like YouTube, what is it? Not affiliates, influencers. A lot of influencers are broke. You know why? Because YouTube is actually costing them money. That's why they're broke. YouTube is costing them more than what they're bringing in. Now, I do spend money on YouTube, okay? Won't get all the programs that any creator knows. There are a lot of programs, software and stuff that it takes for us to create a YouTube video. For me to create one thumbnail, those are little square boxes you see when you're skimming through YouTube to figure out what video you want to watch. For me to create one thumbnail takes 3 programs. Yeah, for one thumbnail to make it look the way I want. All of these things cost money. My rule is very simple. So I don't wind up like this poor Romaine guy who's just now out $57,000 for running his YouTube channel. My thought is very simple. Whatever debt I go into for YouTube, I have to have enough excess money. That means above and beyond what it costs me to live and eat and everything. I must have enough excess money to be able to pay for YouTube. Furthermore, that excess money cannot interfere with my retirement plans. In short, I could not have afforded to have a YouTube channel today if I had tried to do this 5 years ago. Okay, there's no way I could afford to do today. Let me reverse that. There's no way I could have afforded to do 5 years ago what I can do today. My very, very first YouTube was just me and a laptop. That's it. Now I've got programs and graphics and yada, yada. But that built over time. But what also built over time was my skills to run YouTube. And you see, when you learn how to do your own skills, all right? In other words, you learn to be your own editor. You learn how to do your own music. You learn the entire thing. Then if I should ever hire an editor, not only will I better understand what I want that editor to do, I will have more appreciation, so to speak, for the time that it takes to edit. See, because a lot of the times what also happens is people go, I don't understand why it costs $500 to edit a video. Because they may do nothing but spend one day editing your video. If it takes me 6 to 9 hours, 6 to 9 hours to make one TikTok video. okay, with all the graphics that you see and stuff. And, you know, I tend to add more graphics to my TikToks than a lot of creators. That's just me. And that's the neat thing about being a creator. We can put our own individual spin on it. So it takes me extra time because I don't just want to take a, you know, screenshot or a video and just throw it up there. Go ahead, lady with the baby. Ladies with the babies always get the right of way. Go ahead. But by having done the work myself, I have a better appreciation as to why they charge $300, $400, $500, $600 per video to do it. I actually understand why. So Romain Farr, go watch his video. I will link it in this description, but guys, don't go broke over YouTube. And sometimes even I think, oh my gosh, Carrie, do I really need one more editing program? And my answer to that is always yes. But if I add up everything that YouTube costs me, here's the good news, okay? Today, because my channel has grown enough, thanks to you guys watching it and subscribing and all that stuff, thank you to you guys, I at least break even now. I don't make money on YouTube. I make nothing. And technically, I still lose, okay? It's all good. It's all good. But now, at least, YouTube probably, as an amateur, okay, hold your breath, probably costs me around $150 a month to run a YouTube channel. Yes, that's about what it costs me if I average it out, okay? About $150 a month. I now make probably about $125, about $150 a month on YouTube now through Google AdSense. I'm not aggressive. I'm not a aggressive marketer business. I'm not going to sell you a program or anything like that. I mean, that's just not the purpose of my channel. No hate to those channels that do that. You know, I just have a different focus. But at least YouTube now, I'm breaking even on. But for a while, it cost me money. But I will tell you this: it did not cost me no $60,000. Never has, and it never will. I would talk to you about some lies. Things that I've learned about being a YouTuber that you begin to go, oh, now I get it. I've had a YouTube channel since 2019. I started out as a fitness channel because I'm a huge fitness addict. So I want to talk to you about some lies about being a YouTube creator that I can tell you just from my experience. Now, of course, there are always exceptions. Somebody say, oh, that's not the case for me. I get it, but I'm not here to debate that. I'm just simply here to tell you my observations. You know, I teach middle school. Tons of my students want to be YouTube creators. I mean, I'd say right now, I would say it almost exceeds wanting to play football and basketball as I want to be a YouTube creator. And there are some lies that I genuinely, I won't say lies, they're untruths. So that's what I thought we would talk about today. The untruths of being a YouTube creator based on my experience. And I have pretty good experience. I've been on the platform now for half a decade, okay, just a little over half a decade. The people who have followed me, I'm going to tell you the truth, okay? The first 100, so you want to be a content creator. I'll tell you this, the first 100 people that I gathered for this channel, I am telling you, it was short of beg, borrow, and steal from them, okay? I don't mean that literally, so don't take it too seriously here, okay? But I mean, you say you want to be a content creator, all right? And like I said, my channel doesn't focus on telling you how to be a YouTuber or telling you how to be a content creator, but it's perfect for car chat, okay? So for me to get the first 100, I mean, it was anybody and everybody that I could talk to, basically saying, you know, I have a YouTube channel, this is the topic, yada, yada. You cannot be shy about it, all right? It was really, really grassroots. I didn't come with a business that was already intact, you know, where I'm already in front of people and all I had to say was, hey, here's my YouTube channel. I do not focus on TikTok as far as TikTok creation. I don't create TikToks. I pull from TikTok and I don't touch Instagram. It's just not my thing. Okay. I'm very much 100% a YouTuber. So you will see YouTube thumbnails. And for those who may not know, the thumbnails are those square things that you click on when you're going through a YouTube channel and you look at someone and in a nanosecond you decide, is this or is this not of interest to you? Those are called thumbnails, okay? And I can't assume that everyone knows that. So you will see a lot of YouTube thumbnails that will say something like this. Get your first 1,000 in 2 weeks. Get your first 1,000 subscribers in a month. Worse yet, get your first 1,000 subscribers in 7 days. Whatever. Now, here's the thing. When I was a new YouTuber and I saw things like that, I really thought that I had failed at it because it took me almost 5 years to get my first 2,000. Okay, I got my first I wasn't even at 2,000, you guys. I was at 1,800. September 2018. Yeah, I may not remember the day I got married and divorced, but I remember the day my YouTube channel hit nearly 2,000. Okay, priorities. I don't know. It is what it is. Okay, probably because there's some things we would rather remember and some things we would rather forget. Okay, but it's enough to make a new creator think that something is really wrong with them, because they're like, you see these thumbnails that say, 1,000 subscribers, you should have it by the end of, a month, whatever. And if you don't have it, that makes you a failure. That is absolutely not true. And then I started thinking about it. I started going, something's missing. And as a teacher, one of the things that we do is, of course, we teach people things. Well, sometimes we have to be our own teacher and we have to teach things to ourselves. So I started looking at YouTube and how it really, really works. And why is it that some channels blow up really fast and some channels don't? Here are some truths to being a YouTube creator. The chances of your channel blowing up really fast is almost next to nil. Let me put this in really good terms, okay? You have to realize that a lot of people who so-called blow up fast, and again, this is not a straight rule for everybody, but I'm going to say about 99%, okay? A lot of them are businesses that were already in place. All they did was use YouTube to help further their audience. In other words, you're already running a business. You already have your customers or clients. Your business cards are probably already out there or something similar to business cards. You create a YouTube channel and boom, there you go. You've already got a client base. This is something that a lot of big creators don't tell you. It's not that I don't like big creators. And I know at this point, I'm not considered small, okay, but I don't consider myself really large either, to be totally honest, okay? But a lot of them are businesses that are already established. Another big problem, I'll be totally honest, is you'll see some of these big YouTubers. I hate to refer to Mr. Beast, but everybody seems to know he is. If I said Think Media, somebody may not know. I know what it is, okay? But let's take someone like Mr. Beast, and these things just totally, these things just really are pet peeves. Somebody who's on the level of Mr. Beast, somewhere on that, let's just say on that range, okay, says something in a thumbnail like, I can prove to you that it is not luck, but just it's all hard work as to why my channel finally blew up. And they create this third, fourth, or fifth channel, and the channel just blows up. Well, there's a reason you really can't take that to heart. You have to understand that YouTube, being the algorithm, they know every channel that you are already associated with, okay? They know every channel. Your name, your computer, your computer ID, all of that stuff. They got all that stuff. When you make another channel under the same name, the same content creator, the computer algorithm, so to speak, already knows who you are. You are already familiar. So when new creators come on and they see something like, they see a creator says, I went to 1,000 subscribers and it only took me a week. Or better yet, it only took me a couple days. You're the failure. And you don't have the talent to do what I do. And that's why your channel is slow and doesn't go anywhere, because I'm much better at it than you. That's not true. Okay? My channel existed for half a decade, but I didn't have a business coming into the channel. I had never created a channel before, so I didn't have the technical knowledge. I didn't have the equipment knowledge. But here's the thing. If I were to start another YouTube channel now with half a decade of experience under me, I guarantee to you pretty much I could probably get that channel to hit 1,000 within just weeks. There would be no way it would take me 5 years to hit 1,000. So would it be right? Would it be fair for me to put out a thumbnail that says, look I created a second channel, and people have asked of me if I've considered a second channel. No, ain't no way I'm going to do it. One channel is so much work. Oh my God, I can't tell you. And I don't want to be all things in all places. One channel is fine for me. But if I were to create a second channel, let's put this into perspective. I now have the equipment. I have the technical knowledge. The computer algorithm knows who I am. I understand how to logistically work myself around YouTube and the kinks. So is it accurate and is it right for me to put out a thumbnail saying, hey, look how good I am at YouTube because I got my second, third, fourth, fifth channel, whatever, up to 1,000. The reason 1,000 is a big mark for those who may not know is the 1,000 subscriber mark. I think you need 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch hours. That took me almost 5 years, okay? It's the fact that's when you can get monetized with YouTube. In other words, you can start being paid for ads. And believe me, it's pennies on the dollar. Don't get excited over it. Okay. Do not plan on retiring on it. Okay. You get like pennies for ads that run. Okay. So that's why the 1,000 is kind of the big deal. You don't get a silver plate or anything for 1,000, but okay. So would it be fair for me to do that? And as I got more and more experience at YouTube, thinking, God, I'm losing here. I've been doing YouTube for 5 years. I'm barely at 1,000. What you have to remember, should you decide to start a YouTube channel, if you don't have a business with clients already, you don't have an audience, you're not a traveling, comedy person, you're not a traveling business, you are going to start grassroots. You are going to start asking the people at the grocery store that you're standing in line next to, hey, would you like to join my YouTube channel? And yes, that's what I did. Yeah, the first 100 people. It was grassroots. And then, a year later, you still haven't hit your 1,000, but you're seeing all these thumbnails that say, why aren't you, as good as I am? It's like comparing apples and oranges. So one day, kid you not too long ago, I woke up and I said to myself, let's take being a YouTube creator and being a small creator, and small to me most people would probably say, they would say less than 100,000, but I think we go way down beyond that. Let's say 10,000 or so. Okay. So you're a small YouTube creator. I want you to imagine you had a lemonade stand. Yes, I'm a teacher. Everything goes into an analogy of some sort. Okay. It is what it is. Okay. I want you to imagine you have a lemonade stand. Let's forget YouTube for a minute. Okay. You have a lemonade stand. You're standing at the end of your driveway and you are selling your lemonade. All right. And you're very low budget and you have to wait for people to kind of come down your street, approach you in your driveway, and hopefully buy your lemonade. But let's say right down the street, you have a Publix. Publix is selling the same lemonade that you're selling, but Publix is much bigger. Publix, that's a grocery store here in Florida, for those who may not know. Okay, it's just a grocery store. But Publix is selling their lemonade, same brand that you're selling. You're all on the same platform, but it's Publix. Publix is established. Publix is a tax deduction. Publix has lots and lots of legs and arms reaching out into the community. They have vendors, they have suppliers, they have money to go into your neighborhood. Oh yes, here's the kicker. They have money to go into your neighborhood, advertise to people that might have looked at you, but you're the small guy, and they're much more attracted. The customers are much more attracted to the bigger store. At the end of the day, who's going to sell more lemonade? You or Publix? Even though you sold the exact same lemonade, yeah, Publix is going to sell more lemonade. Is it because the Publix lemonade was better? No. Publix just has a bigger reach. It dawned on me, if YouTube creators who think that they're not making it, so to speak, would look at it like that, there is nothing wrong with being a small creator. There is absolutely nothing wrong with it. And I think I won't do a formal YouTube video because I thought about it, trust me, because it's really a pet peeve of mine. I'm not going to say large YouTube channels lie. That might be a push, although I think it's a light push, okay? But there's a lot of stuff that goes into why one YouTube channel blows up really fast and another one does not. Yes, there's always that occasional channel where somebody goes on and they just all of a sudden blew up. One of them was a guy who is a brain surgeon. I think he is like all of maybe 30 years old. He was a brain surgeon, I think MIT or something like that, big. He decides that he's going to leave the brain surgeon and go climb rocks somewhere in a mountain, and his channel blew up. But here's the problem also with a channel that blows up. The reason, and I've included this after half a decade, you don't want your channel to blow up on one video. You want the whole channel to grow as a group. In other words, I kind of think of it like, I think of it kind of like the Titanic. Before it sinks, one end goes up really, really high. That's the viral part. And the other end, what does it do? It starts to sink. There's a lot of thumbnails that want to say things like how to make your video go viral. I am convinced after half a decade on YouTube, okay, it's not viral that you want. You actually want the whole ship to raise together. I've never had a so-called viral video, but in many ways, I think that's been great for the channel because the whole channel has grown as a whole, you see? So what winds up happening is, let's take back to our lemonade analogy. at the end of the day, you sold your lemonade at the end of the driveway, and maybe, let's just throw it out, you made $50 at the end of the day, but Publix made $1,000 selling the same lemonade. Does that mean your lemonade wasn't good, that your lemonade wasn't valuable, whatnot? No, it just simply means you don't have the access and the resources that Publix has to sell their lemonade. I have no doubt, this is just me, okay, I have no doubt that in time, as my channel grows and stuff, it'll keep growing. And I'm very fortunate because I have the resources to help make it grow. I can put in the technology and all of that stuff. But just because somebody else doesn't have it doesn't make their channel less valuable. And I think for me, I spent years really believing that my channel somehow or another just wasn't good. But yet, if I really look at it, and those who have followed this channel, and I have had some viewers who have followed this channel from the beginning, guys, I'm actually the same person, the same creator now that I was 5 years ago. Nothing's really changed. You could watch my channel from 5 years ago, watch some of my older videos with me on a laptop, and it's pretty much the same personality. I think one of the big lies, many that big YouTubers don't tell you, also, and I hinted this the other day, there are business folks. When you become a business and you can get access to the resources that are needed to develop and grow your channel, you can skyrocket it. And it kind of maddens me to some extent why big YouTubers don't tell small YouTubers that. If you can turn your channel into a business and make it something where you are now getting assistance in growing your channel, that's a huge, huge leg up. But instead, what is told to smaller creators is this, and I'm sick of seeing it. This is why I want to talk about it. Oh, you just need to do better content. You just need to be more engaging. You just need to produce content that people love. Guess what? They're either going to like it or hate it. And if you want to have a channel for a long time and you want to be able to get through, like I did, 5 years before anybody even knew I really existed, okay? The best way to do it is just to be who you are. Don't try to fit yourself into some personality mold or some character that doesn't last. A few of you guys out there, not very many, but I have made personal friends with, okay? And they'll tell you, I talk the same and I act the same on the phone as what you see on here. In other words, it's not a character that I play or anything like that. They're like, yep, you sound exactly the same in person. Do not get bummed out because you look at a thumbnail that basically asks why you are failing because your channel isn't at 1,000 in a month. It's not you. And it's not always because your content sucks. Now then, let's get honest. Are there YouTube content out there that sucks? Yeah, there are. And I've looked at some channels and I can see what the problem is. This channel was designed to be mainstream. It was designed to be mainstream from the beginning. But I remember a quote from, I think it was Tom Selleck. Oh my God, we're going to go back to the 70s and 80s, at least the 80s, okay? And I believe it was Tom Selleck, because my sister had a total crush on him. He's an actor, okay? The classic mustache. And they interviewed him, and I could have sworn it was him. And the interviewer said to him after he hit Magnum PI, the interviewer said to him, hey, everybody sees you as a sex symbol. And he literally said, I'll never forget this, I believe it was him. He said, I'm no more of a sex symbol today, now that I'm known, than I was yesterday when nobody knew me. He said, it's just people's perception is that I'm that because they now know who I am. And, I think to myself, I'm no different of a YouTube creator today with 130,000 and growing than I was when I had 500 subscribers. I'm the exact same person. Nothing has actually changed. Yeah, the lighting's gotten better. The camera's definitely getting better. Okay, gimbal's on the way. Yeah, the technical stuff is coming and it's growing and it's developing the software. But that doesn't define me. Me as the creator, I'm the exact same creator. And so I get really miffed when I see things and I read things like, well, and big creators will tell you this, you just need a better thumbnail. You just need better content. You just need to be more engaged. Engaged? Are you kidding me? Have you ever written on some big YouTube channels and they never write you back? I mean, and you write on the YouTube channel, they never give you a heart. They never give you a like. Sometimes I'm like, how did you get to 250,000 and you don't even talk to your audience? Right? So I began to go, can we believe all that stuff that we hear? And you do have to have a heart-to-heart conversation with yourself about your channel. Is your channel mainstream? Is your channel too nichey? For example, you only talk about the lens caps that are put on a Sony camera. That's pretty nichey, wonderful, but nichey, okay? Or are you more general like my channel is? So that's just my little pet peeve. This channel is not designed to teach people how to be a content creator, but I do want to bring it to people's attention because I do know so many people would love to be a YouTube creator. And it's not everything that you see. And I don't think big channels are really upfront honest with how they got big or how they grew. Okay, I really don't think they are. And they are not upfront, not hating, but I'm being honest. They're not upfront with the resources that it takes to put into a channel. Yes, you can create a channel on nothing more than a cell phone, and a few people will be able to do that and get really lucky. But most people, are going to have to put a lot of money, countless hours of time, and a lot of years into their channel if you really want to make it grow into something that a mainstream audience would want to watch. Student loan wage garnishment doesn't mean on May 5th it's going to start like right away, but what is going to happen is notices and stuff are going to start being sent out. Here's the thing you have to remember about debt, especially debt like student loans that you can't go bankrupt on. It doesn't matter how many years off they give you. It makes no difference. The bottom line is that you need to know that all time, at some time passes, and it's kind of like, the story Cinderella, the coach and stuff all goes back to being a pumpkin and all, the cute, the good looking prince and all of that stuff, and the footmen and all of that, Cinderella go back to being little miceys again. So May 5th. Now then, here is kind of the point of reckoning, I guess you might say. Hard to believe, but there was almost half a decade off of student loan payments. And I know, sure as the day is long, someone's going to go, I can't believe they're garnishing. People, it is really, really important to just kind of be honest with yourself and ask yourself, did you do anything during the last 5 years that student loans did not have to be paid? Did you do anything to make your life situation better? Or, let's all be honest here, did you just spend some more? There will be TikToks. This is like really kind of breaking news. This is why I'm doing a car chat on it because I don't really do too many car chats anymore. But the garnishments, it's not like you're just going to wake up on May 5th and they're going to start garnishing. Okay, it's not going to work that way. Basically, what's happening on May 5th is the education department is going to start sending out notices. From what I gather of the latest trending news that I've read, that I've also heard about, okay, this summer, they're going to start sending out notices that basically if you don't call in to get your student loan resolved, not meaning paid off, but you don't make calls into your student loan provider, whomever that is, to start handling your federal student loan, they are going to start garnishing your wages. And I quote, and we've all known this, okay, especially if you've watched this channel, okay, Social Security, pension, federal pension benefits, directly out of your checking account. Now, we've got, foolish people saying things like this. Well, I'm just going to get my paycheck handed to me, by paper check instead of having automatic deposit into a checking account. Thinking, well, the federal government can't garnish it if it's done by paper check. You don't understand. Some of you out there are not understanding. It has nothing to do with how you get your check. They send the notice to your employer. Your employer, by law, is required to take out the mandatory garnishments that are slated to start becoming very aggressive May 5th, 2025. So like in a week or so, 2 weeks maybe, right? It doesn't matter whether you are paid by automatic deposit or whether you are paid by check. You're the end part of the deal. The beginning part of the deal is goes to your employer. Your employer has to follow any student loan federal wage garnishments before they cut your check. So please don't fall for these ding-dongs on TikTok, because I saw it yesterday saying, well, I'm just not going to have my check automatically deposited. I'm going to have my employer write me a check instead. Well, first off, a lot of employers don't even have a check writing option. And second, it doesn't matter. I could pay you in goats, okay? If I'm told to deduct 5 goats before I give you your 2 goats, that's what I'm supposed to do. Now then, here's the thing. I will be doing TikToks, of course, okay, on people who are dealing with wage garnishments. But I think for those of you. This is loving, kind auntie here speaking, okay? Because I'm almost 58, so I'm sure I'm old enough to be somebody's aunt, all right? You really have to ask yourself, did you do anything these last 5 years? What did you do these last 5 years? Well, there were no payments on your student loan. Well, student loan was at 0 interest. I think for some people, this is going to be a really hard reckoning. But instead of kicking yourself for it, okay, what I encourage you to do is I encourage you to ask yourself, what can you learn from this situation so you don't wind up in this situation again? Now, somebody could look at me and say, well, Carrie, you had your student loan forgiven. Yes, I did in 2022 for 110. But let the record show, I stayed on top of it during the entire pandemic. I did not sit and go, well, great, I have a federal loan. I can't really afford the payment. So they said, for PSLF, public service loan forgiveness people, we didn't have to make payments and the no payment months counted. That was wonderful. It was a huge benefit to me. However, it did not excuse me from staying in my job so I could continue collecting those PSLF count benefits towards my 120. It did not excuse me from staying up on the news to find out what the latest, was the TEP, temporary expanded public service loan forgiveness waiver. It didn't discount me from looking at that. In other words, whether people got their loan forgiven during the last 5 years, whether they decreased their balance, figured out how to lower their interest, whatever the deal is, many people took advantage of the last 5 years knowing that at some point we were going to pay it. I think what's put people on surprise, it's just my thought, it's not that they're having to pay it back. I think a lot of people knew, that was going to come at some point. I'm sure there was a handful out there that was living in la land and said no. But come on, at some point you were going to have to pay it. What I think has taken people by surprise and why it's all over TikTok, which, as I said, we will look at it on my channel as well sooner than later, okay? It's that the garnishments came. That's what's surprising people. I think people thought it was going to be a slower, if garnishment at all. According to the news, not a single garnishment has been taken out as it relates to federal loans since the start of the pandemic in 2020. Not a single garnishment because everything's been put on pause. And then, of course, the god-awful Joe Biden Supreme Court thing. We won't even get into that, okay, where they promised everybody 10,000, 20,000. And if you followed this channel, I said it wasn't going to happen. I was right, okay? A lot of us were right, okay? Not just me, of course, all right? But I think what has taken a lot of people by surprise is we kind of went from, we're talking about federal loans, not private, okay? We kind of went from no payments at all on your student loan to, okay, garnishments are coming. But if you really think about it, that was half a decade. Half a decade. That was like 4 years of no payment at all. I couldn't have even predicted that in my wildest dreams, that we would go for 4 years and have no federal loans at all. And I think the people that are panicking the most, I'm willing to bet, are the people who did nothing. Now, I'm not here to shame them. We don't shame on this channel. We learn on this channel, including from my own mistakes, okay? It's not shaming that we do, but we do look at it. We look at it critically and we go, okay, why are you so panicked? Well, my student loans are in default. You mean to tell me during the last 4 years you couldn't get out of default? Well, it's because the whole time was 2 hours. I actually had somebody tell me that once, okay, in a personal conversation. That the whole time was 2 hours. I don't care if the whole time's half a day. You had 5 years. You had 5 years to do it. I literally helped one person, a personal friend of mine, I will not say where, okay, good old USA, who has a $200,000 student loan. It's been in default for the last, say, about 4 years, okay? I'm going to be honest. I gave up trying to help them. Yeah, I did. Still friends, okay? She don't live in Florida, so that kind of helps, all right? But the reason I gave up trying to help them get their loan out of default is they refuse to take any action. I'm willing to bet you that a lot of the people who are panicking about the garnishment, people will say things like, well, the government doesn't pay their debts, why should we have to pay ours? Guys, get out of that thinking. That's stupid. It's irrational. Why? Because what the government does is separate to how your household runs. Yes, I understand that, interest rates and things like that set by the government, set by the banks. We got that. But in general, okay, whether you choose to buy that overpriced purse, whether you choose to have a $500 a month eating out budget because you're too lazy to go pick up your own food and you want it delivered, that is not based on what the government does. And we are barely into 48 hours of the news saying that May 5th is the date that garnishments really start getting reviewed. We've got people already going, I'm not going to pay my student loan because the government doesn't pay theirs. Why would you screw yourself over like that? Why would you take your entire future and try to mimic it after the government? You are not Uncle and Auntie Sam. That's not you. So you are not going to reap the same rewards ignoring your debt. But this is already coming out. And what I sense is that people are panicked. People are panicked because I think they thought, I could be wrong here. I think they thought it was going to be a slow uphill climb to getting back to garnishments. How slow did you guys want it? It's been 4 years. 5, if you count the last year, even though they have been charging interest, your credit report wasn't dinged. And now credit reports are dropping 100 points. Now some can say, well, Carrie, you had your student loan forgiven, so this is easy for you to say. No, it's not. And if you've watched this channel long enough, I have a very, very sordid financial history. All right. So nobody can say that I've had it. Oh my God, I've been born with a silver spoon in my mouth. Are you kidding me? Okay. But something I have learned through all my debt journey and my foreclosures and bankruptcies and car repossessions. Yeah, I've had it all. Okay. There comes a point where it's really the choices that we chose to make, the opportunities that we chose to look over, the decisions we made because we were more into personal pleasure and satisfaction, immediate gratification. I'm going to be honest, as I was really tired last night, but thinking about this as I went to sleep. You know who's being rewarded right now? No, it's not Uncle Sam. No, it's the people who actually did something the last 4 years. I'm going to be honest, it's people like me. Yes, I understand my student loans were forgiven. I get it. But I still had to work. I still had to stay in that job. My job that I love, my middle school job. I had to stay in it. I still had to follow up on the news. I had an account ready to go. I mean, like literally, if they said, you know what, PSLF is not being forgiven during the pandemic time, you must keep paying your payments, I would have still paid it. In other words, the decisions that I made during the time that the pandemic was off was designed to get rid of my student loans. I didn't care if it was going to be getting rid of my student loan through PSLF forgiveness. I didn't care if it was getting rid of my student loans through, paying my bills. Okay, and still making payments during the student loan pause because there was no interest. I didn't care if it was getting rid of my bills by pretending to make my student loan payments, putting into a savings account, and the minute they said, time for student loan payments again, here you go, I've been saving up for the last 5 years. It doesn't matter sometimes how you do it, it's the fact that you did it. So the fact that I had my student loans forgiven does, and some people could say, well, you don't have any right to be criticizing those of us that have to make payments. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Because anybody right now who's not making a TikTok video about how scared they are about the garnishments coming, it's because you had a plan. And it doesn't matter what that plan is. Are all plans equal? Are all plans fair? No. Some people were able to make a plan that they had enough stock that if the student loan forgiveness, 10,000, 20,000 wasn't given, if it was ever under threat of garnishment, they're ready to sell their stock. It's a plan. I really, really believe that if you are truly panicked about the wage garnishments coming, you need to have a heartfelt talk with yourself about what you did wrong the last 4 years. Again, I am not here to criticize. I am here to try to point out, why is it that some people thrive when times are tight and other people suffer more? I genuinely believe it's the ability between those that are thriving. We've all made sacrifices the last 4 years. I have not gone on fancy trips. The fanciest trip I've gone on since the 2020 pandemic is to go to Oregon. I'm looking at 23-year-olds on TikTok saying, yeah, I know I have $100,000 in student debt, but darn it anyways, I'm going to Cancun. I have not bought cars that are super expensive. I'm driving my little paid off Toyota Corolla as I drive to work right now. This May 5th, starting the garnishments for student loans, it's going to be a point of reckoning for a lot of people. Don't get me wrong. I am not wishing ill. I'm not sitting there going, well, it's about time they got it. No, on this channel, we look at what did we do to not prepare. There are people out there that are totally chill with this because they're prepared, not chill because they don't care. And stop following those stupid TikTokers that say things like, there's one already trending. Guys, I'm telling you, the TikTok news is up. Yes, I will make videos on it, I promise. Hold on, I gotta look out for the children. But stop following these stupid pieces of advice that you're hearing on TikTok that says, well, I'm not going to pay my student loan. They can't get blood out of a turnip. Yes, they can. Yes, they can. The federal government can get blood out of a turnip. You may not pay it now, and you say, and I've already heard this, well, I'm just not going to work. Really? Well, then who's going to support your ass while you're not working? Who's going to pay for that? Here is the bottom line. If you paid off your student loans, if you managed to get it forgiven, if you managed to get that debt knocked way, way down before the May 5th date, you deserve a round of applause. And I am absolutely serious. You did the right thing. You deserve a round of applause. And yeah, you even have some bragging rights too, I'll say that. But if you're one of those people making a TikTok about how unfair the student loan garnishment is, how unfair, and let's remember something, I'm going to have a hard piece of tough love here. We are not a political channel, but I am going to say something political. I've said it once before. Whether or not you like the current administration, okay, it was Trump that extended the student loan pauses. See, this is why I would have made an excellent politician, truly, because I can see both sides. Okay, so people want to give, and again, I'm not a political channel, but we are just going to talk about facts as I pull into work. People like to say that it was all Biden, that's to take all the credit. We wish the Biden administration was in office because we would have student loan forgiveness, yada, yada, yada. Who was it, though, that was in office when the student loans were extended? Yeah, if I truly want to credit, I'm being honest, I'm not being political, I'm being honest. There's a difference, okay? Hold on, I'm backing in my spot. If I truly want to give credit as to why my little ass is out of student loan debt, I have to give credit to both administrations, both of them. Why? Trump, for recognizing during the pandemic that people were suffering with student loan payments as they were losing their jobs. I have to give credit. Got to give credit where credit is due. Then I have to give credit to Biden for understanding that the public service loan forgiveness program for teachers, firefighters, police officers was really, really messed up, and we needed to fix it. So you see, I've told you many times, the student loan thing isn't about Republican or Democrat. Student loan problem is a student loan problem. But before we bash one political party or another for the ills or the gains of the student loan, speaking for myself, okay, I have to credit both administrations for helping me get to where I am today. So if you are finding that you are scared, these wage garnishment letters are going to start becoming very aggressive during the summer. In other words, May 5th is like the rollout. They're going to start notifying people. And basically, they're telling you, I'm telling you, check your email. This is what's coming from the education department. You need to start checking your emails. Yeah, I know you don't want to. You need to. You need to start checking your telephone calls. You need to call into your loan service provider. In other words, you don't have, I'm going to say this lovingly, okay? You don't have the right to complain that you are getting, sorry about the bad lighting, guys, I'm in the car. You don't have the right to complain that you're getting screwed over by student loan garnishments if you're not doing anything to keep that garnishment from happening. You don't have the right to sit and say, oh my God, I just can't believe it. Don't they understand we're suffering? Yes, they've understood it for the last 5 years. They've understood it for the last 4 years for sure. And the last year, they even gave you a break and didn't, hit your credit score and allowed you to continue making zero payments, even though there was interest. The question is, what point do you take accountability that perhaps you did nothing over the last 5 years? And now you're all panicked and you're going to make a TikTok about, they just don't see that we're all suffering. They saw it. Both administrations saw it. The question is, did you do anything about it? This morning we're going to talk about some of the best financial decision, or the best financial decision I ever made. As I've gotten older, I've come to realize that some of the best financial decisions I've ever made actually had nothing to do with money. But instead, what it actually had to do with was the psychology of why I spent the way I did. So let's talk about leasing a car, because I know that's kind of a hot topic button for some people. Some people are very, very anti-leasing, and some people are very much for leasing a car. I did a 3-part car series, and I guess it's in my YouTube account somewhere. I'll try to link it to the end of this video, okay? But one of the best financial decisions, and I mean like probably sits at the top 3, was leasing a car. Now, there are a lot of people who think that leasing a car is a horrible waste of money. There are also a lot of people who think that buying a new car is a horrible waste of money. Leasing a car is like renting. So some people say, okay, I'm not saying it, but some people say leasing a car is like renting. It's throwing away, your money. Or some people will say, buying a new car is a waste of money because as soon as you drive it off the parking lot, okay, it's 15, 20% down, whatever. It is my experience that I listened to that for years and years and years. I listened to it from the ages of 16 to in my 50s. So I'll be 58 this summer. And it is my experience after having been a car lease, and I leased a Toyota Corolla for, about 3, I did for almost 2 full leases. So I did for about 5 years until I bought this car that I'm sitting in, okay, Crimson, that's the name of this car, okay. And I bought Crimson brand spanking new, April 2024. I bought this car, this Toyota Corolla Hybrid, brand spanking new. You know how you know when you've made a really good money decision? When days later, months later, you can say it was one of the best decisions. Hold on, bike rider, 2 hands on the wheel. Okay. You can say it was one of the best money decisions you ever made. Putting aside my parents' belief that, we should only buy used cars, you should buy them gently used, 3 to 4 years old. We've heard it all, right? And I did that for years and years. But my experience is this. If you do not have the ability to maintain your own car, okay, I don't care how easy oil, lube, and filter is. If you don't know how to do it, you're handicapped at it. It would be like me as a writing instructor telling someone, look, a 10-page paper isn't that hard to do. If you don't know how to write a 10-page paper, it's hard. For me, it would be a piece of cake. Give me the topic. It doesn't matter. So if I apply that idea to owning a car, okay, a lot of people say, oh, but owning a used car is so simple. Just do your own oil, lube, and filter. If you don't know how to do it, you're going to have to pay somebody. So after years and years, from the ages of 16 to my early 50s, respectively, I had always bought a used car. But the problem is that I was also married for about 10 years, and he maintained the car. My ex-husband maintained the vehicles. So, if we needed a new engine part to go in and stuff, okay, that was great. I could do that with him maintaining it because I didn't have the skills. But when I became single again, okay, about 10 years ago is when I got divorced. When I became single, I had to come to the realization that, look, you know what? I can't maintain a car. I can check my oil if you tell me where the dipstick is. I kind of know how to change a tire. I mean, kind of, sort of. Not enough to pass a test, but enough to point. And so I think that's a lug nut, okay? But that's about it. So what I had to really weigh was putting aside the things that I had heard about leasing a car or buying a new car. I think a lot of the reasons people get into debt with money, especially student loans, they are repeating the mantra of things they have heard other people tell them over the years. They've bought into it, they've done it, and then they realize, holy cow, it doesn't work for me. Sometimes the best financial decisions, in my experience, some of the best financial decisions I have ever made are decisions that went completely against everything I had been told. Now, this doesn't mean I was careless about it. When I decided to buy this car, I had saved up, probably about $8,000-9,000. I bought this car for $26,000. So figure that left me in the mid to high teens, basically, to pay off. So it wasn't done carelessly, but it was done with almost a guilty sense. It's like, you've been told for so many years to do it a certain way. You almost feel guilty. Okay. Some of you might know what I'm talking about, that you're not going to do it that way. Okay. And I had made the conclusion that buying a new car, after having leased a car for 5 years and loving every moment of the lease, I absolutely loved leasing, okay? But when I decided to give up the lease to actually purchase a car, because leasing was now becoming unaffordable, it was a year ago, almost a year ago, okay? So when I decided that leasing had become unaffordable, it was time to get a car. I almost felt a sense of guilt because it's like, man, I've always been told I should buy a new car, 3 to 4 years old, yada, yada. But I didn't want to buy a new car. And I did not want to buy a used car. Why? Because leasing a car taught me that, wow, I know the entire history of the car. I knew everything about the car. And when I turned in my first lease after 3 years, I was like, I ought to just buy the car because I know everything about it. Then I got the second lease and I considered buying it, but decided to go into a hybrid instead of just a standard Corolla. I think at times when I think about young people and some of the college debt that they get themselves into, a lot of the stories we hear is something like, my parents told me I had to go to college. My parents told me that, I was going to be the first in my family and I had to get this college degree. This may be going against the grain, but no, you don't. You really, really don't. Yes, it's great if you can be first in your family to go to college, I guess. But how many stories and how many people have we heard? And I can tell you from all the stories that I do on this channel, guys, we got tons of people trying to make a name for themselves, but they're doing it wrong. They're going into college not understanding the immense amount of debt they are getting themselves into. And they're doing it because somebody's telling them this is the way you're supposed to do it. But the person that's telling you isn't helping you. Now, if I put that towards a car, let's say my parents had said, Carrie, we want you to buy a used car instead of a new car. I'd have said, fine, you go ahead and pay for it. Because you see, when I buy a used vehicle, all right, the problem is that I don't know the history of it. So I decided to go against the grain of everything. And when I tell you everything I had been told, it was against everything I had ever been told. I bought a spanking new car. I was willing to take the 15%, whatever percent drive off the lot fee. Best financial decision I ever made. If we apply that to college and the debt that young people are finding themselves in, is it really so bad? If a young person who's been told all their life, you have to go to college, you have to take on student loans, you got to get into the, Sallie Mae, which I just absolutely hate, okay? And remember, Sallie Mae's private, you guys. They deal with federal loans, yes, as far as, once your federal loans are used up, then you go to Sallie Mae. Sallie Mae is private, okay? There's no income-based payments, no nothing. Would it be so bad if a young person realizes that, look, you know what? My parents can't pay for college. I'm going to have to carry the whole weight. I don't want to work a job and a half, 2 jobs. I don't want to carry a student loan for the next 10, 15, 20 years, and I'm going to do something different. I'm changing lanes. You get the play-by-play when you listen to me drive and talk in the car. Is it really, really so bad? And I think part of the reason we spend money the way we do, we're just repeating or we're just doing the action of what we've been told. If I had bought this car strictly based on what I had been told, I would have first off never leased a car. And I had a peace of mind reasons to why I did that. I won't get into that. Like I said, I'll attach the series at the end for those who want to watch it. It's probably like 3 hours. So if you want to kill time during the day, right? But if I had repeated the mantra of vehicles like I'd been told, I never leased a car. I would have immediately purchased a used car. I would have dealt with all the headaches of a used car. I'd have had to look at the title. Has it been in a crash? Has it been in a wreck? How many potholes has it been over? Yada, yada. I don't want to deal with all that. And I am so sold on having bought a new car after having leased cars, and all my leased cars were brand new. And it was like, I'm not kidding, family. It was like a breath of fresh air going, oh my God, I know the whole history of the car. And every time I turned in the first leased car, it's like, I know the history. I decided to go against everything that I had been told about vehicles and money. And I sometimes think as I watch, clips, a lot of them which I don't play on my channel just because there's so many of them. And I try to pick the ones that I think are best, best spoken, most relevant for my audience. But I see so many clips of I'm in all this debt because, my parents wanted me to be the first to go to college. I don't say go against what your parents want to a certain extent. But once you hit 18, if your parents aren't paying for it, remember when you were growing up and they would say, Annie, you're not paying the bill, I am, and maybe you'd get it, maybe you wouldn't. Well, when you grow up, it reverses. Okay, mom and dad, you're not paying the bill. I'm the one who's going to have to pay the bill. And I don't wish to work a job and a half. Is it really so bad if a young person decides that they don't want to get trapped in the student loan cycle? and that they decide they're going to go to a trade school, or they're going to try to be an apprentice or do something else different. To me, that is not so bad. And I've said it many times on this channel, unless your parents are paying for your school. And I don't mean you go to school for a year and they'll write you a check at the end of the year. I mean, they are literally paying for it semester by semester. Unless parents are paying for it, young people, you got to seriously decide if the bill is worth it. I can tell you, for me, financially, the car was totally worth it. But you know what I discovered? It can take years to get to that realization. It can take years to get to the realization that you don't have to spend money in a way that other people have told you it should be done. And why? Because you're individual. You're your own person, your needs, your desires, the things that help you sleep at night. For me, buying a new car helps me sleep at night. Okay? The battery on this car is warranted till 2 years before I retire. Yeah, the battery on the Toyota Corolla Hybrid. I will give up this car before the 10-year mark. In year 9, this car will be given up. Okay? It helps me sleep at night because I don't have the ability to repair a car. Whereas a person who knows how to repair a car can probably sleep just as well at night, because they know, hey, you know what needs an engine part? I'm just going to go down to AutoZone and I'm going to go pick it up, dismantle it in my driveway and put it back together again. And they're totally fine with it. Money decisions need to be based on your skills, your talent, your access to information. And it also has to be based on your desire. You may have the ability to actually do an oil, lube, and filter. I probably do. I don't have the desire to learn it. And of course that costs. Somebody else may, have the ability to get through school or not. What I have learned at this mature age or maturing age is it has taken me years to figure out that it is okay not to spend my money in the ways that I've been told, or even in the way that social media tells you. It's an honor if you can be the first in your family to go to college. That's great. But if you're one of those young people crying on TikTok, and we know we've got it on my videos, that, quote, I was the first to go to college and now here I am. I'm saddled with $50,000 student loans. I don't even work in a field that my major was in. Worse yet, my major was in some liberal arts degree. I'm basically unemployable. Don't wait till you are my age, but I mean this very sincerely. Don't wait till you are my age to feel like you have permission to be able to spend your money in a way that does not hurt you. Because you see, it's very easy for other people to tell you, what is it they call side seat drive or armchair, okay? Armchair, whatever, okay? Armchair quarterbacking, okay? To tell you this is how you should spend it. But in reality, there are so many other factors. But for most of my life, and I think young people do this a lot too, and I'm guilty of it. You spend your money the way your parents tell you to do it, or the way society in general tells you to do it. And society in general says things like, you should never buy a new car because the minute you get off the lot, there's 15, 20%. But what happens if I decide to buy an inexpensive car and that 15 to 20% loss isn't so bad? What happens if I decide, and I did, okay, the 15 to 20%, I'm willing to give that up to know the entire history of the car? I sometimes look back and I think to myself, my God, I waited so long to be able to make my own financial decisions. But the problem I see with a lot of young folks getting themselves into extreme debt, especially student loans, okay? It's the pressure of being told you need to spend your money like this. And then they're all patted on the back. Yay, first the family, got to go to college, yada, yada. Okay, not dismissing it. I mean, heck, you're talking to someone with 2 master degrees. Okay, but then what's the price that they're paying? Debt that nobody can pay off. I remember this, folks. When somebody sits and says to you, "Oh, this is so wonderful, you're spending your money that way," as you're the one crawling your butt into debt, who's going to be there to help you pay it off? That's kind of the way I looked at with my car. Somebody can say to me, "Oh, Carrie, buy a used car, get one, it's a couple years old, yada, yada." Okay, great. You're going to be the one to help me when I'm stuck in the driveway or I have a leaking oil plate, pan, or whatever. And I've dealt with all of that in used vehicles. And I'm not talking high clunker vehicles, because I've never really driven a clunker my whole life, okay? And if it was going to be a clunker, my ex-husband was able to keep it from being a clunker because he was able to fix it. But I think to myself at times, how much better young people would be if they knew that they have permission, at least from the time they turn 18, you have permission not to get yourself into a ridiculous amount of debt just because somebody tells you you should, or that you should do it on behalf of your family. Now then, fine, so I'm parking here. I don't have kids, and I'm not a parent, so I can't give you the full emotional aspect of it. But I can tell you, after holding student debt for 16 years, and after watching numerous young people on TikTok and other social media platforms crying because they were trying to make their family proud, and their family was unable to assist them, and they got to a ridiculous amount of student loan debt, you don't have to do that. And you don't have to wait till you're in your 50s like I was before you decide that, you know what, you can spend money the way you like. And if you don't want to work a job and a half, 2 jobs, because you don't want to take on ridiculous amounts of debt that you can't afford, and maybe you would rather go to a trade school, maybe you'd rather be an apprentice or, some other experience, give yourself permission to do it. I gave myself permission to go ahead and buy a brand new car. And it felt weird because it feels weird to go against the grain of what you've been taught and what you've been told. So it's just something to think about. Let's see, who was it? Love and Joy, I think it was you. So thank you for letting me know you like the live stream. Thanks for the thumbs up. These car chat live streams are kind of occurring because for those who may not be as familiar with my channel, I'm doing about a $2,000 equipment upgrade on the channel, and it's just taking a lot of work having to order stuff and just get familiar with mirrorless cameras and gimbals and all of that wonderful stuff. So it's gonna take some time. I'm hoping to get back to my regular Ramsey TikTok stuff this weekend. I can't guarantee it's gonna happen this weekend, but it will happen by middle of next week, absolutely no doubt about it. But the goal is to have it happen this weekend, even if I don't have all the software and hardware in place. But I really think it's worth the wait because it's an awesome upgrade, and it's kind of a 58th birthday present for myself, which will help benefit you guys. So anyways, that's what's going on, where I haven't been posting, where I'm kind of doing car chats. Which, as much as I love them, this is actually not my preferred method of streaming. But for right now, the page is under, the web page, my page is under construction, we're going to have to just car chat, okay? But I will consider keeping it, car chat for at least occasional, but it probably won't happen as much once the page gets up and running. But I think the visuals will be awesome. So let's talk about a TikTok video that I saw that I may put up when I get back to reactions, because I really, really was just like, oh my goodness, okay? So this guy, kind of young, I'm going to put him in his 20s, okay? Apparently he takes out a student loan. I do not recall how much the student loan was. But like I said, when I get back to TikTok and all that, once my hardware and software is all installed, I'm going to put it up there and I'll do an on-camera reaction to it. But basically, here's the short story. And that is he took out a student loan. I don't recall how much the amount was, but it was serious enough that he got behind on his student loan. And this is all very pretty recent. So the student loan people, I believe it was a private student loan, because typically federal doesn't call you and harass you. They just, keep adding on interest and all of that stuff. But they don't really call and harass you. At least that is my experience, although I've never been in default. But I know if you have private loans like Sally Mae, they'll call and harass you up the yin yang. And I believe his is private. So anyways, what winds up happening is he takes out this student loan. He cannot pay it. Pandemic occurs. All of this stuff happens. And basically his student loan is now in default. Well, they wind up calling his grandfather and threatening that they're going to take the grandfather's home. And little did I know, because he doesn't tell us till like the end of this TikTok, he says the grandfather signed off on the student loan. Now, here's the thing. I don't think grandparents should be signing off on anybody's student loan. If you're a grandparent or getting near that age and getting near the age of retirement, I think signing off on your grandchild's student loan, man, unless you've got the money where you can just write a check, kind of like, you have enough in stocks and bonds that you're willing to release it, or you have enough money in, a savings account, you're willing to release it, or you live in a big enough house and you're willing to downsize so you can get back the equity and pay it off and pay off his student loans. So he was like, they're calling my grandfather, they're threatening to take his house. Here is something that people just don't think about when they co-sign. And it made me, even though I'm very aware of co-signing, I've never co-signed, okay, and I never will, not even for a family member. But I think what people forget about with co-signing is, guys, when you co-sign, you are signing for someone who doesn't have the money themselves. And so I think what happens is, and I'm not faulting family members who do this, okay? I'm child free. So maybe some people can say, well, she doesn't understand the emotional connection. I kind of do it. 57, yeah. I have enough friends and stuff who are parents. I think I'm pretty mature enough, even though I don't have kids. Yeah, I can see the emotional connection and all of that stuff. I really can. The problem is putting your very own roof and livelihood so you can co-sign for someone. I always say that everybody loves you right up to the point that they need your signature, or your John Hancock, as they call it. Okay, that's the olden days of how signatures started. We won't go there. But once you release your John Hancock, well, guess what? They don't need you anymore, and you become last priority for them to pay the bill, because it becomes, well, I have a co-signer, and it doesn't even matter if it's a relative. Okay, the fact of the matter is, I have a co-signer. I have someone who will back me up. Therefore, all other bills now come first. In other words, you co-sign for someone, and in your heart of hearts, you're thinking, oh, my child wouldn't do this to me, my BFF, whatever, okay? Grandchild, it doesn't matter. Pick the relationship. You think they would never burn you like that. And when you're signing for them at the time, I'm sure they don't plan on burning you. But what you have to understand as the co-signer is you become last on the payment list. You are the last person that needs to be paid. So this kid basically, or the grandfather basically put up his house, because clearly the grandfather doesn't have the money if they're threatening to take the house, okay? The grandfather basically put up his house, or whatever property, okay, to pay for his son's college education. You know what? Community college, folks. And there is nothing wrong, in my opinion, with saying, I'm sorry, if you go to college and you get broke, at least I have a roof over my head I can give you. I can lend you a room. In other words, I strongly believe that you weaken your financial position when you co-sign for somebody. Because once you co-sign for someone, you are literally taking on all the liability. You're taking on all the risk. You're even taking on more risk than the person that you're co-signing for. Because think about it. The person you're co-signing for probably has less money experience. They most likely have maybe a little bit to a way lot, worse credit score. Most likely, they don't have the financial skills yet to be able to manage their money, hence why they need a cosigner. So I thought about it, and I was thinking to myself, okay, so let's say this grandfather, if the grandfather had really thought about it and had known that his property could be put up for sale to put his child through school, would you still cosign? And I think what people need to do, like if my sibling, let's say a sibling came to me and said, would I cosign? First thing I would have to do, because just like anybody else, sure, I want to help you. But the first thing I have to do is, okay, when does co-signing for you weaken me? If I co-sign for you for, let's say, I don't know, let's just say $1,000, okay? So let's say it's for a sibling, $1,000. Could I co-sign for $1,000, not lose sleep, and not be forever upset at the person who borrowed the money from me? In other words, is there a dollar amount where it's going to hold a grudge? I say $1,000 I'm good for co-signing. If I absolutely had to for a sibling, I mean $1,000. Why? Because I could wipe it out in 2 seconds. Like if they didn't pay it, boom, the bill is paid. Would they ever be allowed to borrow from you again? No. Okay, and I would expect the same in return. That is my bar. That is what I could technically, sign for a sibling, because I don't have kids, so I have to use my siblings as examples. That is what I could sign for a sibling, not hold a grudge if you did not pay it back, and not lose financially. Could I co-sign for a sibling for $5,000, $10,000? No, because at that point, you're now talking a huge percentage on a teacher's income, okay? You're now talking in the percentages you're taking of my annual income. Something I think people need to think about before they co-sign, if you had to pay that entire bill right up front, right now, because they missed a payment and the late fees are going to start and you want to thwart all that, what percentage of that is of your take-home income? Oh, you didn't think about it like that. A lot of people don't. So what do? They go off and sign off for other people's houses, boyfriends, girlfriends, which is the dumbest thing you can ever do. Don't sign off for a boyfriend, girlfriend. Don't do it, okay? But I digress. Think about how much of your take-home income co-signing that bill would cost? Could you wipe it out in a year without anything being sacrificed? So you get these people, and from what I gather, this student loan was big enough he couldn't pay it. And by the way, student loans are in default. Okay, so not only could he not pay it, they're actually in default. But if you actually took a look at the bill that you are co-signing for, should you be foolish enough to want to co-sign? Okay, that's just my personal opinion. How much of your take-home income does that amount to in the course of a year? Oh, I'm going to co-sign for my child's college education, and I'm a parent who can't afford it, so I'm going to go sign off on $15,000. Let's say $15,000. Let's just say, for some people, that's 50% of your take-home income. Can you afford to give up 50%? Oh, you can't afford to give up 50%. Now, of course, I know people make more, but I'm just trying to play in real numbers here, okay? Like I said, school teacher income, you can't afford to give it up. So why would you co-sign for it? Basically, if you are void of a savings account, you barely keep any money in your checking account, you don't have stocks that you can just cash out. If it's from Tesla, you might want to consider cashing it out sooner than later. Again, I digress, okay? But if you don't have that type of money, don't do it. I think if people, changing lanes. I think if people would take the emotional aspect out of relationships and who they're co-signing for, and instead really look at the hard numbers, you would begin to find that what you're co-signing for oftentimes is a totally crazy amount. And this goes for those stupid co-signings of boyfriend, girlfriend. Oh, but he loves me so much, so he's going to co-sign for me, or vice versa. Great. Let's add up how much your take-home income is for a year. What was your tax return last year? You want to sign off on a car? Great. Let's just throw out a number. Car's $15,000. Are you ready to fork out $15,000 of your hard-earned money? Better yet, add up how many paychecks you're going to have to fork over to pay off that bill. So let's just say the bill for a car is $15,000, which is actually a low bill for co-signing. Okay, co-signing gets up at the houses and all that. But let's just say it's for a car. How many paychecks does it take you to add up to $15,000? Oh, that's a lot of paychecks. You don't want to give those up. So why would you co-sign for it? See, co-signing is like a credit card. All right. It's easy to co-sign because you don't actually see the money. You don't feel it coming out of your account. Okay. I've included this. Okay. It's all about the heart. It's all about the motion, and you're able to do it. And it's painless. It's like a swiping with a credit card. You don't feel it. You don't feel it till the bill is due. And like I said, you become the least important person to pay off. You know, those stories that we hear about with families that, lend money to each other, not necessarily co-signing, but they're just simply, here's $5,000, lend it, all right? And why Ramsey says never lend money, and I agree. You don't lend it, you give it away. So what you need to do, in my opinion, is take that same concept with co-signing and say, okay, I'm going to co-sign for you. And if you don't pay it, it's as good as me having given the money away. I'm happy to pay off the bill. No grudge is held. And you can go get that second job that it requires you to go pay off the bill because you co-signed. See, so you got to think of co-signing kind of differently. Think of it like that. All right.